And the rich get richer. The Los Angeles Dodgers have agreed to a 5-year contract worth $182 million, $52 million signing bonus, as well as $65 million deferred, $13 million per season. Just an incredible get here for the LA Dodgers. Welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys taking the time. Quite a few headlines out there in the sports world today, but the big one last night was the LA Dodgers landing their guy in Blake Snell. They arguably have the best 1 through 4 in MLB history as far as rotation. Any one of those starters you could stack up against another team's ace, and you could argue they have the better starting pitcher on that day. And oh, by the way, they're not done. They're still in the market for Juan Soto, that coming from John Heyman and multiple other reports. They're looking to add an outfield bat to that lineup first and foremost. So whether that be bringing in a Juan Soto or bringing back Teoscar Hernandez, they're still looking to add significant payroll. A move of that stature is going to be at least $20 million more per season. That's an incredible financial risk they're taking. But you got to remember, the $700 million they spent last offseason to bring in Shohei Ohtani, they deferred so much of that money. They are now able to capitalize on so many different opportunities that would never have presented themselves had Shohei not agreed to the deferred money or to even sign with that team. The Los Angeles Dodgers are literally rolling in money right now, and they are using it. I saw a few people comment on some of the videos that I posted saying that the Dodgers have a spend bank, and you bet you they definitely do. They have money to spend, and they will spend it. They're not going to sit there and say, hey, we won a couple of World Series now. Let's just lie back and rake in the money and just try to get as much money as we possibly can. We don't necessarily need to spend the money on a Juan Soto. We can still have a very good team. Let's go out there and roll the dice again and just see what happens. They could absolutely do that. Other franchises would do that. The LA Dodgers are in a very difficult market. They're a very competitive market. The Lakers are there. Clippers are vying for time on the NBA side of things. You got the Kings out there as well on the NHL side. Major League Baseball, you have the Dodgers and the Angels. It's a very difficult market to stay relevant in. And of course, you're in California. You arguably have the coast to deal with as well. So it's very difficult for them to maintain market share. And boy, have they announced their authority here by saying, hey, not only are you watching the greatest product that there's ever been in Major League Baseball history, the greatest player in Major League Baseball history, you could be watching the greatest dynasty when it's all said and done in Major League Baseball history. Now I know some of you guys are going to come at me and say, hey, back in like the dead ball era, there was some really great teams back then as far as winning 1, 2, 3 in a row, etc. Sure. But we're talking about Major League Baseball, where the last dynasty is back 20 years now with the New York Yankees, and to do so now is almost unheard of. I would say 20 years ago, the landscape of baseball was so much different than it is right now. It's no longer the George Steinbrenner evil empire Yankees and the rest of the league. It's now, hey, you got the Dodgers out there on the West Coast. You got the Astros, quote-unquote, dynasty down in Texas. The Rangers just snaked a title as well. The Braves have been the team of the decade as well, along with the LA Dodgers. You have the Phillies that are being very competitive on the National League side. On the American League side, you got some really good teams starting to build back up again, the Orioles, etc. It's a very difficult thing to do. It's not difficult, however, to see how good of a team the Dodgers are building there. And for them to add Blake Snell, just an incredible get. Really excited to see what they look like next year going into the season. Now, they're going to add an outfield bat. They're going to add some relief arms as well. Now, of course, we have to discuss what are they going to do at that number 5 spot in the rotation. Of course, they could go with some guy that's already signed to a contract, to Tony Gonsolin, and they would still be a very good 1 through 5. But they also are looking to bring back a Walker Buehler, a Clayton Kershaw. They could bring in a Max Scherzer as well. The most likely scenario, however, has them landing another top-flight free agent who could be better than any of the other 4 starters in their rotation in Roki Sasaki. That's just going to be an incredibly loaded rotation. The question for them is health. Can they stay healthy? Glasnow has its own injury question marks. Ohtani coming back from the Tommy John. You have Yamamoto, who has had his injury issues as well. Kershaw's at the tail end of his career. His injury issues are starting to crop up. And then some of the depth options that they have as well, Dustin May, etc. Those guys also have some injury red flags on them. Walker Buehler, etc. if they decide to bring him back. Those are some significant question marks. And so I do expect them to add at least one more impact starting pitcher in addition to a top-flight outfielder, whether that's a guy like Juan Soto, of course, the best on the market, or if they bring back their own guy in Teoscar Hernandez. I think the Hernandez piece is a lot more palatable to them, not because of the money, but because of how effective he was on that team, and because he was one of the few players that actually became a friend to their best player in Shohei Ohtani. Now, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me and you out here watching the game, but as far as in the clubhouse, for a guy coming over from overseas, having played in the American League for so long and not being able to experience the playoffs, getting his first taste of success in Major League Baseball on the National League side of things, you want to keep things as comfortable as you can for him and just making sure things are going right for your best player by having a good support system around him, both on the field, in the clubhouse, and and at home. So we'll see how things work out for the Dodgers. I'm expecting them to land at least one of those guys. If worst case happens and Teoscar Hernandez decides to take big money elsewhere and Soto decides to go to the Mets or Blue Jays or Red Sox or Yankees, they could easily flip to Anthony Santander or the trade market. But that's kind of where we'll start. Item number 1 is the signing of Blake Snell to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Welcome in, Mike. Don't forget the ace of the rotation to be determined. Well, that is true. Remember in the postseason, they really only had 3 starters, and one could argue the bullpen was their 4th starter. But they don't really have they don't have too many pieces back there that they can rely on going into next year. Gratterall's going to miss about half the season once again. Trinan's a free agent. Phillips is a free agent as well. They have some holes in that bullpen, much like the Texas Rangers, my favorite team. They need to add at least 3 relief pitchers, whether that be a closer and then a couple of setup guys, or getting 3 setup guys and seeing if one of them can close. They have some holes back there, but I get your point there, Mike. They've got a really great 1 through 4 when healthy, but again, there's always that to be determined if they do have that injury risk come about. So appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Posted a video not too long ago about Daniel Jones agreeing to sign for the remainder of the season with the Minnesota Vikings. Got another short video coming out about Blake Snell here in about 20 minutes. If you guys want to stay up to date from all four of your favorite major league sports teams out there, like you got the MLB that I cover obviously here. I cover the NBA, the NHL, and the NFL as well. So make sure you follow and hit that subscribe button. But item number 2 I wanted to get to is where this fallout is now for Blake Snell. What does this mean for the other pieces on the board now that we've seen a couple of starting pitchers come off the board? With Kikuchi going to the LA Angels, again, completely mystifying there, but a good number there for him. Another great number here in free agency for a starting pitcher in Blake Snell. Corbin Burnes was expected to get 7 at 210. I'm here beginning to hear reports that his market's starting to creep above that, so we shall see where that number ultimately ends up. But Boras is not sitting around. He understandably had a couple of difficult free agents cases last year in Montgomery and Snell. He did right by Snell, getting him a great AAV. It is the third highest for a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball, behind only Zach Wheeler and Jacob deGrom. Wheeler, I believe, is making $42 per season on a 3-year deal, while deGrom got a 5-year deal very similar to Snell at just a little bit higher of an AAV. But overall, he got a great deal after a very difficult season last year with the Giants having to sign late, kind of course correcting. But the best part about Blake Snell last year was that he put his head down and he got to work. He was able to rebound from a tough start to the year, something he had not been able to do in campaigns previously. With Mookie moving to second, I definitely see the Dodgers trading for Devin Williams from the Brewers. That's kind of where my thought process is as well. If they're moving Mookie into the infield permanently, they're going to add an outfielder. I have no doubt there. That could make a possibility of a Gavin Lux moving or being traded the other way. They do have an opening there in Milwaukee for a shortstop. Lux could fit there. But they seem happy with the guys that they have in the clubhouse. At least the owner or the manager there, Pat Murphy, said as much. But I don't think they're a long-term home for Devin Williams. I think they realize that they need to capitalize on this relief market. So many starting pitchers are out there right now, and so many more are going to be traded. So many relief options are out there. So many more are going to be traded, including their own division rival. The St. Louis Cardinals are going through a rebuild this season for the first time in 20 plus years. Ryan Helsley, their closer, had a better season last year than Devin Williams, but he's going to be also on the trade market. Maybe the Cardinals get one of those guys, the Dodgers get one of those guys. Maybe they get both of them and then bring back Trinan and just see if they can roll it out there again and win another series. But there's going to be a ton of options out there for the Dodgers. But as far as the fallout goes here, what does this mean for the rest of the free agent class as far as starting pitchers? We'll start at the top. We talked a little bit about Burnes. I want to touch on Max Fried as well. There's some debate as far as who's the better pitcher between the two of them, who might be more gettable. Burnes, I think, is going to get a higher AAV and a longer contract. Fried has a little bit of an injury red flag, a little bit less of a performance over the last couple of years because of that injury, but I do think they are every bit the same level of pitcher. Burnes, I think, because of the consistency of performance and availability, gets the better deal, gets the longer deal. But I think there is an opportunity for other teams who miss out on Burnes, who miss out on Snell, that want a little bit less of an AAV, want a little bit shorter term of a deal. Max Fried could be your guy. Now, I'm not saying it'd be a 4-year deal, but instead of signing him to, say, a 7-year contract, Max Fried, I think, probably signs at best a 6-year deal. I think he's going to come in a little bit under that number that Blake Snell got. I would expect Burnes to come in a little bit under that number as far as overall AAV, but I expect the total dollars for Burnes to be higher, while Fried I expect to be less. So, for instance, say 6 years at $30+ million a year, that would put him in the 150 to 175-ish million dollar year, 175 million a year range. I think that's likely, or 175 over the course of the contract range anyway. I think that's a very likely scenario for Max Fried. Now, the Red Sox are the team that's hottest after him, but his own team, the Atlanta Braves, has at least checked in to see where his market is at. Another piece to this kind of domino effect of Blake Snell going there, now that frees up money for the Red Sox to be able to sign Max Fried because they're no longer in the market for a Blake Snell. If Fried goes there, the Atlanta Braves now have an opening in their rotation. They've already kicked the tires now on Walker Buehler. They've talked to the camp of Max Scherzer, and now they're circling around to Nathan Eovaldi. Eovaldi, I believe, is the best of those pitchers that they have talked to. I think he's performance on the mound and be able to take the ball every 5th day, be a workhorse for you in a postseason series, come out of the bullpen if you need him to as well to kind of clinch a series. Those are all incredible things that Nathan Eovaldi has done in his career, and I think he's the better pitcher out of those guys at this point. Has he had an injury issue at times in his career? Sure. Has he been able to give up the gopher ball from time to time? Absolutely. But as far as the guy I want on the mound in a Game 7 situation, there's not too many pitchers around in Major League Baseball that I'd rather have than Nathan Eovaldi. And they got great results out of a veteran last year in Chris Sale. Had a Cy Young bounce back campaign. I'm not saying he's going to continue to do that for the next 3 or 4 years, but Sale was ready to hang it up after this year. And after putting up Cy Young numbers, obviously, and winning the Cy, he's going to stick around for a little while longer. So Braves are hoping to catch lightning in a bottle once again. They're not going to be able to pay at the top of the market for a Fried or a Burns or a Snell. But Eovaldi's probably going to come in the $20-ish million range, 20 to 25 million. The question is the years. If he's willing to sign for 2 years, I think there are a ton of teams that would love Nathan Eovaldi 2 years, 25. There are some other teams that are more willing to do a longer-term deal at a shorter AAV. Maybe the Braves are that type. They do like to get a lower-cost contract. And Eovaldi, I believe, is only 35-ish, 34, somewhere in that range. But I think he'd be a great addition to the Braves organization. Cubs have also checked in on Nathan Eovaldi as well as Walker Buehler. They're looking to add to their rotation. And of course, the Texas Rangers are still in communication with Nathan Eovaldi. They really want to bring him back. They have $40+ million that they can spend this offseason. If they spend, say, $20-25 million on Eovaldi, give him that third year. Let him say, hey, we know you had a great run in Texas. You won a series here. Our money is basically equal to what is out there on the market. Go ahead and sign here and continue your legacy. You can be the next Adrian Beltre for this organization. Beltre came there after his age 30 season and really lit things up and built his Hall of Fame resume with the Texas Rangers. Just the ability, the longevity, the consistency, the defense were all there for Adrian Beltre. They could offer the same thing to Nathan Eovaldi, and he could say, hey, you can wear a Texas Rangers cap going into the Hall of Fame. So that could be a very likely scenario for Nathan Eovaldi if the Rangers have very similar contract numbers out there for him. Welcome in, Isaac. Welcome in, John. What's up? Appreciate you guys joining us. The Giants should get Jack Flaherty and Brendan Crawford and also Andrew McCutchen. Yuck, yuck, and yuck. I mean, they need to add some big-time impact players. Flaherty is that for sure. Crawford, McCutchen, they need to be swinging. They need to be swimming in the big kids pool. They don't need to be trying to get the cannon fodder at the end of free agency where nobody else has signed these guys. So we'll see if we can get a deal or overpay for a free agent. They've missed out on so many of their top targets. We've talked about it ad nauseum. From Bryce Harper to Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, to any of these other top players, Aaron Judge. They've missed so many of their targets. They have to land one of the big fishes. Coming into the season this year, there was discussion about them being the favorite to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams for a Juan Soto. Where are they in the sweepstakes? They aren't even mentioned. That tells you how far down the Giants have really come. Hopefully Buster Posey can get things back on the rails there in San Francisco. John, have you heard anything on the Orioles? They have pivoted since they were talking to Blake Snell back to their own starting pitcher in Corbin Burns. They're also looking at Nathan Eovaldi. They're looking at Andrew Heaney. They're said to be looking at Max Scherzer as well. A couple other pitchers in addition to that. Possible reunion with Kyle Gibson remains in the works as well. But for me, they need to go at the top of the market for a starting pitcher. They need to bring in an ace to that staff. I understand they had all this great development. They have all these great prospects. But at a certain point, you have to get some proven track record in there. And they've fallen flat on their face twice now in the postseason. Whether that be bringing in another outside veteran for that rotation like an Eovaldi to kind of give them a little bit of a steadiness once they get to the postseason. They need something to get them going once they get to October. They're a great 162 team. We've seen that over the last couple of years. It's time for them to take that next step. If they lose Burns, I think this takes them completely out of the discussion for them being a American League favorite for the World Series. I love their offense, but if they don't have that ace at the top of that rotation and a guy they already had in-house, what are we talking about here? The Orioles are a very good team. If they bring back Burns, they're still my favorite to come out of the American League. If they don't bring back Burns and they settle for, say, a Sean Manaea or a Luis Severino, in that $20-ish million range, I have some serious questions. Now, if they bring in Eovaldi, that helps, but they would need to do more than just Eovaldi, if that makes sense. This is a team that needs a couple of top-line starting pitchers to front this rotation, and they better get it done in free agency, because as far as trades go, we've seen how it's worked out for them as far as trades go. They were able to bring in Burns, but then you lose him in free agency. That tells me you're not exactly taking advantage of the trades that you're making. And so the prospects that you would be giving up to acquire another starting pitcher, say they bring in a guy like Garrett Crochet, the pieces that you'd be giving up, losing Burns as well in free agency, just to replace him with a guy who has one really good year as a starter, leaves me having big questions about your future to be able to stay in contention in the American League. Appreciate you guys joining us today. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Just wanted to do a quick update for you guys as far as where the market stands after the signing of Blake Snell. We'll be live with you guys again this evening, breaking down all the moves from today. We'll end on the market for Juan Soto. Juan Soto, of course, is the top flight free agent on this year's market. We've seen in years past how that's worked out. Shohei Ohtani the year before, Aaron Judge the year before that. They dominate the headlines. Where they go, there's money to follow, and there is money to spend across a number of teams. And we came into this offseason, or we'll start at the beginning of the story. Juan Soto gets traded to the Yankees from the San Diego Padres. Coming into the year, we expected the Padres to be a little bit of a rebuild. They decided to try to spend after trading away Juan Soto, and they did a great job adding some pieces around that roster, bringing in Dylan Cease, bringing in Luis Arraez. They had a good year, but I would say Juan Soto had a better year with the New York Yankees. Coming into the year, we expected the Giants to be there, the Yankees to be there, and the Mets to be there, all in the market for Juan Soto, and probably the Dodgers once they got to October and see how they fared. We knew there was going to be a lineup opening there. Now, when we get here to the end of the season, we're talking about the Dodgers still being in the market. To a lesser extent, sure, they're still looking at Teoscar Hernandez and Santander. They don't see it as a make or break thing for them to land Juan Soto, which to me is just more reasons for Juan Soto to consider them, because we're talking about a team that's going to be there at the NLCS year after year after year with just the team they have right now. You bring in Juan Soto, we're talking about a team that probably wins the National League going away every single year. Now, I understand they still have to add bullpen. It's a 162-game season. Injuries happen. I get it. But on paper, they should be in the World Series every year if they bring in a Juan Soto. That's how we view the Dodgers right now on the National League side. We also knew coming into this offseason that the Mets were going to be there. The Yankees were going to be there. We knew that the Toronto Blue Jays were going to have some money to spend. But, I mean, it's Toronto. Are they really going to try to make one last hurrah at this for a Juan Soto type? Is he going to choose them? The Boston Red Sox, sure, they've had money for years, but are they ever going to spend it? They need to add some starting pitching, and that's where their focus still lies. But now we have really a 5-team race for Juan Soto. Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays. I still would give the favorite to the team that's willing to pay him the most. Red Sox have some money to be out there and spending at the top of the market, but for me, the top 2 teams that are going to spend the most for him are the Mets and the Blue Jays. Now, the Yankees, of course, are still there. They had a great year there, but if he goes to anywhere else, I would say the Yankees need to start figuring out what they're going to do long term, whether it be adding another starting pitcher and just relying on the starting pitching, carrying them into the postseason, because that lineup is going to need some work if they don't have Juan Soto there to protect Aaron Judge. That offense was anemic before the trade deadline, got a little bit better afterward. Jazz Chisholm was a nice addition, but we're talking about league average, competent players coming in and at least giving them a little bit of a boost, because outside of their top 2 or 3 guys offensively, it's been just nothingness out of that Yankees lineup, which leads me to believe that Juan Soto sees his value on that team, and it's going to cost the Yankees a pretty penny. My question is, are the Yankees willing to pay that cost to be able to bring him back? So as far as the offseason goes for Juan Soto, I think it's coming down to those 5 teams. If Shohei Ohtani puts his fist on the table and says, bring me Juan Soto, I want him as my corner outfielder, it's going to happen. They have that level of money to be able to get it done. Now, the Dodgers view themselves as a great team already. I think they'd rather go the route of a Teoscar Hernandez if they were, behind closed doors. But I think they realize they're in a very special environment right now out there in LA. They have a very unique opportunity to be the first dynasty since the Yankees, and then that might be the last dynasty we ever see in Major League Baseball. You never know, but it's been 20 years, almost 25 years now, since we last had a true dynasty, a back-to-back winner of the World Series, and Dodgers could be the first team to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if they added a Juan Soto. But it's going to be a heck of a way for this offseason to go. Once he goes, I think we're going to see some big time activity from the position player market. The starting pitchers are already starting to come off the board. Max Fried could be the next one to come off. I think Burns is going to take a little bit of time, but he could be the next one off the board. Or one of these veterans, like an Eovaldi, a Scherzer, somebody like that, could be the next couple of arms to go before we get to the winter meetings. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be live again tonight around 8, 9 o'clock. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you this evening.